And congratulations to you on being nominated for the standing panel for the Ceann Comhairle. I would like to use my time this afternoon to highlight the historic trade deal which was achieved at last week's European Council meeting. The €1.8 trillion deal is a huge vote of confidence to the world that the European Union is ready and able to tackle COVID-19 and to build back better after this pandemic. The €390 billion being distributed in the form of grants raised by new EU debt mechanisms by the European Commission also highlights that the EU is taking a stand to help those countries that are most affected by the pandemic. The response to this pandemic needs to be stimulus-led, and we must be not afraid to spend billions in order to save trillions. This is not a time to return to the austerity policies of the past. They created enormous inequality and hardship for millions of people, including here in Ireland, and it should be avoided at absolutely all costs. This is not to say that we should not be careful of how the money should be spent. As I mentioned in the House before the European Council meeting, the need to uphold the rule of law is critical for the functioning of the European Union, and we must look at protracted Brexit negotiations on a level playing field, of which I welcome the news this morning that there seems to be some degree of progress there. So that's incredibly important for, I think, every constituency right around the country. And I'm thinking of the farmers in Cork East as one of the most dairy productive regions in the country, which would be devastatingly impacted if there was a crash-out Brexit, which we have to try and avoid at all costs. And I know, Minister, that you are making many efforts in that particular area. However, it is a reminder that the whole functioning of the single market is based on the free movement of goods, services, capital and people, based on harmonised standards across the European Union, and we cannot allow that to be weakened. Too many lives and livelihoods are at stake. And we also cannot let countries like Hungary and Poland deflaunt such rules, as the implications of doing so are far wider and simply I think are simply dangerous in terms of the impacts they could potentially have. So I would be very much focusing on those both particular countries to ensure that they are toeing the line and obeying by the same rules as everyone else. I also think from the perspective, of long-term investment in terms of our states' airports is critically important. I think under the new EU generation money that's going to, or next generation EU money that's going to be made available, ring-fenced for long-term spending on projects around long-term development and capital infrastructure, we should be looking at ways we can bolster our international trade, not just from the European Union's perspective, but from Ireland's perspective to the World Minister, which is critically important. In recent days, we've seen much progress being made in the areas of energy between Ireland and our European counterparts. Minister, I know I have raised that here with you in the Dáil before. So I think we should look at our airports too, which should be very, very important to Brexit-proof our economy to the best extent possible. I know from my own perspective, in Cork airports, they could potentially benefit from next generation EU money to fund future projects that they have ongoing at the airport. So I think that point as well would be critically important, and I'd encourage you to highlight that with your colleagues. Also, I think from the point of view of vaccination research and antigen testing, one of the major crises that are facing the European Union in the next number of months, and it's been raised, I think, by Deputy Boyd Barrett a few moments ago, was around, new outbreaks of the virus and mutations of it as well. I think we have to have a degree of concentration on that particular matter and invest in antigen testing at a European level. Minister, I'd love to see you feeding that message back. We in Ireland have a critical role to play in that fight. We are home to many of the world's leading pharmaceutical companies in terms of their European bases. 9 out of the top 10 in the world are located here in Ireland, and they're an enormous part of our economy and our society now. So we should be leading the battle about improving antigen testing to ensure that we can have accuracy and rapid testing in place in the event that there is more outbreaks of new strains of this virus, which is highly concerning, which we've seen in some European countries and in the United Kingdom in recent times. So perhaps that is a matter that the government could give some consideration on at a European level as well. Thank you very much.